Now, let's talk a little bit of fishing. We have somebody new coming in. We have Stephen Sautner. Now, you are the author of a book called Fish On, Fish Off, but you are a former New York Times outdoors columnist.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I did that for about 15 years. It was great because you could sort of write whatever you wanted, and they would run it. But as you know, unfortunately, the outdoor columns of a lot of papers are sort of a thing of the past. But it was a great 15-year run while it lasted, and a lot of fun to write for the Times.
Now, in those 15 years, let me backpedal a little bit. There had to be something of a personal experience or of a lifetime of fishing that led up to you writing, especially getting a gig like the New York Times.
I'm a storyteller by nature. You know, my dad doesn't fish. No one in my family does. I never had a grandfather who was like, come on, son, I'll show you how to fish. So I was self-taught. And I write about that in the book and the challenges of being self-taught. And I mean, like, really self-taught, like doing really, really silly things. Like, there's a story in the book where my dad suggests to me, I think I was about 15 years old, and I just started to fish, like, really hardcore at that point. And I fished only with live bait, and I used to catch bait at the Jersey Shore, where we would have a house every summer. And my dad was like a pragmatic guy, and one day he says to me, he's like a New Yorker through and through, and he's like, why are you catching all that bait? You should buy a lure. You won't need to catch that bait. And I was like, yeah, I didn't own a lure. I didn't know the first thing about lures. And so I went to this tackle shop. My parents drove me to this tackle shop at the Jersey Shore, and this was like a hardcore, local, serious tackle shop. And they weren't particularly nice. I think in the book I call them tackle Nazis.
Stephen, you know, we talked about this briefly, but I want to recap this because when you said you were a kid, didn't know anything about fishing, and there's the old guys, you know, that have been fishing their whole lives, they're telling stories for 100 years, and I know the look you got. You got that look of walking into a gun shop, and they all look at you like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, well, you know, the mom-and-pop tackle shop, which I absolutely love, and it's sad to see them sort of go by the wayside as the big box stores sort of take over and internet stuff takes over. But, yeah, there was one in my hometown, and it was like a social club. And I started going in there when I was 15 years old or so, and there was like a group of guys, and they'd be sitting around either drinking coffee or, depending on the time of day, they'd have these paper bags with beer in them. And they'd be in the middle of the store, yeah, and then as soon as I walked in, silence.
The piano player stops.
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah, it was like a bat in a movie. And they weren't particularly friendly. And one day they played a practical joke on me. At least I think it was. I never actually confirmed what it was, but they told me. Now I was a little bit older at this point. I've been going in this shop because I could drive. I know that. I started going there when I was, I don't know, 8th or 9th grade. So I could drive at this point. And they told me they were catching weakfish, which are these big, glamorous, saltwater sort of sea trout fish that in New Jersey everyone wants to catch. Big weakfish at this certain parking area along this beach. And it was called Lot G. That was the name of the parking lot. And they just, yeah, we're catching weakfish. I was like, oh, my God, they finally gave me a tip. This is awesome. So I stuffed my car with tackle, and I drove down there, and I was, like, so proud. Oh, my God, I've been welcomed into their inner circle. This is going to be great. They're going to take me tuna fishing and all this. And I get to Lot G, and to make a long story short, I put all my gear on. This is going to be a very serious surf fishing trip. So I got my waders, my raincoat, my plug bag, my gaff, my fillet knife, my headlamp in case I was going to fish all night, you know, my 9-foot surf rod. And I go walking out on this beach, and there's a lot of people there, which seemed kind of weird, but they were sort of far away. I wasn't really paying attention. And then I start fishing on this beach, and I was like, something's weird about this, because I remember it was October. It was a nice day in October, but I'm like, why are there so many people on this beach? And then I finally sort of turn around and give everyone a good look, and every last one of them was naked. It was a nude beach, and I had heard about this nude beach somewhere, and, well, wouldn't you know it, now I'm in the middle of it. And I turned back around, and I should say that this was not the nude beach I had hoped it would be, with, like, beautiful girls, you know, giggling. This was like going to, like, the DMV, except everyone's nude.
Stephen Sautner has been our guest here on Wild Michigan. Thank you, Stephen, so very much.
Thank you. It was great.